You probably have a lot of these comic books, and they went up in value this week. Let's get into it.
Not only are these books all going up in value, but the vast majority of them have never made it to the list before. It's pretty exciting, if you ask me.
Hit the like, slap the subscribe button. We've been doing this video every single week for nearly 6 years straight, and let's hit them with number 10, because we gave them a warning. We told them that this book was awesome just last week, and now it's spiking. Number 10 on the list, X Factor. Number 19, the second cover appearance of Apocalypse.
$10 average sales, and we are reporting a high 9.8 sale of $63. That happened on auction, but this is one of those Apocalypse keys that not a lot of people think about because his first full cover appearance is X Factor 6, and it's not until a full 13 months later that we see him on his second cover appearance.
Could you imagine getting introduced to Apocalypse on the cover of a comic book and then having to wait a year to see it on the stand? And not only that, on that same cover, you get the first cover appearance of the Four Horsemen, which is great spec for season 2 of X-Men 97.
I don't even know if you can call it spec, because we got that tease at the end of the post-credit scene of X-Men 97. We get Apocalypse looking at Gambit, and it cuts to black. I feel like that's pretty much a sure thing at this point, and I think the community may agree. We're seeing a 283% increase in copies sold on this book compared to last week.
Utilize code Tom101 on the best comic app in existence. It's called Key Collector Comics, and yeah, you can keep up on comic news, and you can get suggested pricing and learn your keys, but I want to recommend my favorite category, which is the randomizer. You click a button and you get hit with 10 random comics. There are so many comics to know. You can always learn a little bit more.
And now we've got a book that is older than me. Number 9 on the list, supervillain team-up. Number 14, from 1977, we see the first meeting of Dr. Doom and Magneto. $30 average sales and a high 9.6 sale of $175. We're seeing a 360% increase in copies sold this week.
Live action Marvel movie in development for X-Men, so of course people be specking on Magneto, but they're also specking on Doom because we're waiting on casting, and we're hearing rumors about Giancarlo Esposito. And I want to know what your guys' thoughts are about this, because I don't think he's going to play Charles Xavier.
Yeah, there's been rumors and speculation for years at this point that he would be a really cool Charles Xavier, and I guess I kind of agree with that. I think it would be cool to see him play somebody who's not just an outright bastard like he usually plays, like Gus Fring, for example, or Moff Gideon in The Mandalorian. He's very famous for playing just the worst kind of villains, and I feel like it would be probably good to have him as a villain in the MCU.
It would still be kind of villainy, but I think Doom's going to get a little bit more range in there. Gus Fring was an absolute breath of fresh air for the Breaking Bad franchise. I can tell you I almost dropped off watching until the Los Pollos Hermanos stuff came in. Oh yeah, I know, Ryan can make a face, but like season 3 was awful, and all of a sudden, Season 3 was awful. And yes, Giancarlo Esposito definitely brought that show back up to the excellent level that it deserved.
Who he'll portray is still up to debate, but we know he's joining the MCU. This is what he had to say at a recent convention in Mexico City.
Wouldn't you like to see me play a character in a Marvel movie who is original and new and fresh? So, mark my words, this will happen sooner than you think.
He didn't stop there, however, because what he also said was that he was going to be featured in a movie, probably an Easter egg or some type of post-credit scene, which makes sense. Getting some Thanos vibes here, making me feel like Dr. Doom may be the play. He also mentioned that he would be joining a series, whether he'll be leading it or not. This is some Disney Plus type of stuff. And what villain, because it's got to be a major villain, can hold their own in a Disney Plus show? It's got to be Doom.
The fact that he did say sooner than you think, and the fact that Dr. Doom is part of the Fantastic Four universe, which was all owned by Fox, who
Jonathan
is
Hickman
being merged into the MCU via Deadpool and Wolverine. He said sooner than you think he could be appearing in that movie, which is coming out in like 2 months. The next closest option would be Captain America, which comes out like on Valentine's Day. So we're almost a year out from that one. That may not be sooner than you think, but all in all, I think this is a really cool casting, and I'm very excited to see who he ends up playing.
And check out this transition with Uncanny X-Men 161, the origin of Magneto, seeing $50 average sales, $130 for a CGC 9.8, an increase of copies sold of 480%. I imagine because of the post X-Men 97 love, the nostalgia, the season 2 that's going to be inbound that they'll probably keep adding more seasons to, but then also the live action movie that's in active production.
Speaking for myself, by the end of the season, Magneto actually was my favorite character in X-Men 97. I think he just killed it. Magneto was right, as they say. It does make sense to go back and check out his origin issue, which is this one. And then you also have to consider the fact that we did get the writer attached for the upcoming X-Men movie. We have Michael Leslie, who wrote the Hunger Games Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes from last year. That movie is now chugging along, and Magneto just kind of makes sense, right? We can't have an X-Men movie without Magneto in it, so Magneto keys. It's kind of a no-brainer.
We also have to keep in mind that the Fortnite video game is releasing a Wasteland Magneto character in this brand new season. Shout out Beachside Hobbies and Lost to Rage, couple of my Fortnite friends.
Which brings us to number 7 on the list with an independent comic book not enough people are reading by a writer that everyone knows, with a J. Scott Campbell printed to the abysmal count of 380. We have Ascencia, issue number 22 to discuss.
The demand for this book is massive. It is driving a $300 average sale, and we saw high sales of $359. Now, Ascencia was completely and totally orderable. You could have gotten this from any shop, and I don't think enough people were paying attention to this amazing title.
And Tom and I actually did a whole segment on this book almost 2 years ago to the day, back when we used to do our live podcast show too, which is kind of insane to see this book make full circle 2 years later in our circle here at least.
And we told the community then what you had to do to get a chance at this comic book. You had to collect 5 issues of Ascencia. Yeah, over the last 2 years, cut out a coupon out of each of those issues and mail them in so that you can get a mystery box. And what was in that box? Either a Frank Miller printed to 380 Virgin variant or this J. Scott Campbell Virgin variant.
So I have been a massive System of a Down fan since Toxicity. This is really one of those things where when you have the drummer, John Dolmayan, writing a comic book, he could very easily lean on the fact that he's had a massive band that tours and releases great albums. He really hasn't, and I think that's why this has flown under the radar. Not enough people know who this is, and they're really not giving it a chance.
And since we actually talked about this book back on the channel 2 years ago, I do remember this is a pretty cool story. It's about a walled-off city called Ascencia, where everybody inside there is very well off and successful and happy, and it's kind of like a utopia inside this dome. Everybody outside is not so great, and the story happens when murders start to take place inside the dome, and they end up recruiting a detective from outside to come in and try and crack the case.
It's sci-fi set in a dystopian future, and then it's got a little sprinkle of 7 horrific body horror. It's extreme at times, and it's definitely worth your attention. And when was the last time we've seen such a play for the collectors straight up? These covers have to have been absurdly expensive. I did an Instagram video with John Dolmayan, and he let it slip that he paid over $40,000 to make these covers. To push his comic, of course, but also to get collectors some low print Frank Miller and J. Scott Campbell. Hot damn.
You guys have totally heard this story before. James Gunn likes to read comic books, and he also likes to post about it on social media. So that's why this book, number 6, is on the list this week. Wonder Woman Dead Earth, number 1. We are seeing $7 average sales. And keep in mind, this was a black label book, so that was cover price for this oversized magazine-sized book. We are seeing a high 9.8 for $145 just about 2 months ago. But because of the size of this book, there really haven't been that many graded.
That's true. There's only 20 slabs on the CGC census, and that $145 sale is the most anyone has ever paid for a 9.8. So I imagine the price for this might creep up, especially once people send more copies in. I got to admit, I was slow on the Daniel Warren Johnson game. He is the writer and artist of Wonder Woman Dead Earth, which I actually happen to have right here because I fell in love with his run on Transformers. And then decided to go back and correct the mistake and read some more of his other work. And I've had this book sitting in my bedroom for several months now. And once I saw it on the list last night, I'm like, I gotta finally open this and read it. What do you know? It's amazing.
Yeah, you have on one side of things like amazing artists, and then you have on the other side of things incredible writers. And when they come together, they make something great. And Daniel Warren Johnson does it all himself. And it really is showcased in some superb storytelling. And this book is so intriguing. What happens to Superman is the reason to read this book alone, but It is more like a Mad Max story. It's more like a creature horror movie playing out in the pages of this comic than anything I have read that includes Wonder Woman.
So I have to put out a slight caveat to that, too. I think a lot of people might just get excited to see James Gunn post something cool. And he just said, basically, this is a cool book. I liked it. And a lot of people went out to go buy it thinking that it might impact the future DCU plans. But this is an Elseworld story. Every other superhero is dead. Wonder Woman is the only one left, like a couple hundred years after a nuclear war wipes out pretty much the whole planet. I don't know if this could necessarily fit into the rest of the wider DCU that they're building over there, but it's very much worth reading. And I think Daniel Warren Johnson is someone you need to pay attention to. He's actually nominated for the Best Writer/Artist Eisner this year, and also his run on Transformers is currently up as well for Best Continuing Series.
If you like Joker's head in a jar being carried around by Batman in Batman Last Night on Earth, Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, if you like The Last Ronin, if you enjoy Old Man Logan, you're going to have to pick this book up.
I'm loving this list. A lot of stuff on here is very modern and came out in the last few years. This one is just a year old at this point. Number 5 on the list, Wolverine, number 36 from just last year. We've talked about this book a lot, actually. We're seeing $50 average sales and a high 9.8 of $200. That just happened a couple days ago. All in all, there's a 106% increase in copies sold of this book this week, because this week we did get Hellverine number 1, the character's first solo series, even though he first debuted in this Wolverine issue.
That's right. It took him a little bit, but once they came out, it was definitely because the fans demanded it. He was a breakout character last year, one of the hottest new characters of 2023. And they did a great job with this comic book. It's an excellent issue number 1. The reveal at the end is pretty game changer and has a lot of Wolverine fans hyped. And it's got some people specking on Deadpool. I digress, because there was an excellent Scotty Young cover. There was a spoiler variant, which we won't show. But also, you got to give love to that Kevin Eastman cover.
We've also got the fantastic Teixeira and Ryan Stegman cover. But guys, this book performed so well at the shop. I was looking at the books on Tuesday, figuring out what would sell off the wall, and I knew Hellverine number 1 was going to be gone. We just did not buy enough copies.
No spoilers in the comment section, please, but I want to know your thoughts if you picked this book up and what you thought about the ending. My jaw dropped. Number 4 on the list is Ghost in the Shell, issue number 1. From 1995, this is when Dark Horse was doing their manga comic books. And we have $35 average sales, $370 for a CGC 9.8, and an increase of copies sold of 500% because of an announcement that there is another animation slated.
The interesting thing is there was the $370 buy it now, but then even more recently, there was one that went for $261 on auction. So the demand is there, but auctions are still lagging very, very far behind. I can tell you that this is one of my favorite animes back in the day. In the mid-90s, I used to go to Crazy Mike's Video, and they had the $1 for one-day rentals, and I wore out their copy of Ghost in the Shell. I watched this so many times. So when the live action in 2017 was coming out with Scarlett Johansson, I was appropriately jazzed. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't Ghost in the Shell. Scarlett Johansson was great. It just wasn't Ghost in the Shell. The movie was fine. It just wasn't Ghost in the Shell. So it's nice to see them getting back to the animated roots where it started and be able to actually tell the story again. I'm very excited for this, and with a large increase this week, there's a lot of other people in the comic community that are as well.
I've given this book and the other previous anime and movies a shot. It never really stuck for me, but I will. You have to admit that this property is just super influential. Like The Matrix, for example, would not exist without the existence of Ghost in the Shell. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff that Ghost in the Shell influenced too. And I think for that alone, it deserves its spot on this list and any other list.
Keep in mind, this is going to be a slow burn. The animation series that's going to be on television won't hit at best until 2026. That's what they're saying, and that's if there's no delays. So be patient and definitely wait for those auctions, because if they're down now, you can save some money.
I don't know if you're aware, everybody watching this, but there's a lot of comic books out there. A lot of them, and they come out every single week. It's hard to keep up sometimes. And if you're lazy, like me, maybe just hit up our website, ComicTom101.com. We'll send you comics. You don't have to think about it. We'll send you cool books every month. A lot of them are new number 1s, great starting points, like, for example, the upcoming Spider-Gwen Ghost Spider number 1. We have a very cool Greg Horn variant. We have 2 different versions of it, actually, that will be going out at random in everybody's mystery mail call. You will either get the trade dress version here, featuring Gwen eating some ramen. That makes me hungry just looking at it. The Virgin cover also features Spider-Man kind of creeping in through the window, which I quite like, too. So you'll get one of those at random, plus a whole bunch of other stuff.
And not only that, we have a Deadpool Wolverine Trinity Comics exclusive by Ivan Tao, guaranteed 1 per box as well. Go to ComicTom101.com, join the community. We'll send you funny books every month, and you support the show directly. And number 3 on the list is, Blood Hunt #1, the Polybag Red Band version. It's not a variant. It's a completely different version of the same book.
$10 average sales and a $20 high sale for a still sealed in the bag copy, but I can tell you that most of the customers at our shop were buying 2 copies, one to read and one to save. But still, a 233% increase in copies sold means Marvel is doing something right.
There are 2 versions of this book. One is called Red Band, which is kind of like the R rating version next to the PG-13 standard comic that comes out, and they are very different. And I like that you mentioned that a lot of people are buying 2 copies of the polybag version. I bought 3. I had to get the standard version because I wanted to compare the 2. And oh, is it different? There are deaths that play out entirely different between the 2 issues. There's more body horror in the Red Band version versus this standard edition. I'm just going to either get both or just go all Red Band going forward.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. I was a little skeptical on how graphic Disney would let this stuff get, but if you compare side by side, you got one issue, oh, that guy died. Other version, that guy got ripped in half, actually. So they definitely toned it down for the standard edition. But they had a lot of success with this Red Band stuff, so much so that we just got the announcement for a Werewolf by Night #1. That's coming up soon. That's only going to be available in the Red Band. It's going to be polybagged, so you got to be careful with that one. We also, just this last week, got announced a new Wolverine miniseries written by Jonathan Hickman with art by Greg Capullo that will also have a standard and a polybag Red Band version as well. So hopefully this just means we're going to get more and more mature storytelling over at Marvel.
Can we take some time to just hype up Jonathan Hickman right now? I mean, he's killing it with Ultimate Spider-Man. He's got Red Band stuff in the distance.
I will always hype up Jonathan Hickman, man. I'm a Hickmaniac, as they say. I'm a certified Hickmaniac. We've got even more Hickman stuff on deck on this list, too. Not to get too spoilery, but we should just move on to number 2 on the list.
Which brings us to number 2 on the list with Masters of the Universe #1. Yes, this is a great, affordable entry if you're looking for a key comic book, but the only thing that people really care about is He-Man, maybe Skeletor, but He-Man is the main character people would spec on, who appears in DC Comics Presents number 47. Yeah, that's a little bit pricier of a book, but the book on the list is part of the 3-issue series, and it's hitting $25 average sales, and you can get a 9.8 for $275, much cheaper than He-Man's first appearance.
This Masters of the Universe book absolutely falls into the category of it's just difficult to get in high grade. There were way too many of these read by children. If you look at the earlier appearances, you see a lot of books that are more like picture books or coloring books for He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. So when you find this book in high grade, it is absolutely one to pick up. We are seeing a 500% increase in copies sold this week because we have casting information that Nicholas Galitzine is going to be playing He-Man.
And this book last hit the trending list back in February when we were getting more updates about the movie. They were circling around a director. They had a recent rewrite from a new screenwriter. And since then, that director has been confirmed. That would be Travis Knight, who directed Bumblebee. And then again, just this last week, we got the He-Man casting. So it does look like this movie is chugging along, and you might actually want to try and scoop up some of these keys if this is your thing, because it does appear that this movie will be happening.
This is being co-produced by Mattel Films. Yeah, a toy company, but keep in mind, they produced the Barbie movie, the billion-dollar blockbuster hit of 2023, the biggest movie of the year. And their slate is so intriguing that we have to get into it right now because it has nothing to do with comic books, and I don't care. Listen to this. You know that card game, Uno? Yeah, they are bringing that to a movie. Is this right? With Little Yachty.
That was my first reaction to confusion and laughter. It doesn't make any sense, but again, Barbie was their first movie that they had a hand in making. So it's kind of hard to turn your nose up immediately at this stuff because who knows, right? Who knows how successful Rock'em Sock'em Robots could be? Vin Diesel is attached to that. Enough said, I guess, on that one. There's also a Barney film on deck starring Daniel Kaluuya, who I loved in Get Out.
Seriously, guys? You left me with the animated Bob the Builder movie? Oh my God. Okay, animated Bob the Builder with Jennifer Lopez and Anthony Ramos. I'm done. Let's get to number 1.
Should probably hit like and subscribe, though. You know, we've been here a while. We've been talking. If you made it this far, you clearly like us. So hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. We'll be back next week and every week after that because we don't stop. We've been doing it for 6 years.
And next week is Dallas Fan Expo, and I'm hosting a stream with Davis Ryder. Link in the description so you can bookmark the stream over on Whatnot. You get a $15 credit that you can use on your first purchase if you've never been on the app. And you're going to want to because we're teaming up with John Boy Myers on a Transformers #7 Optimus Prime cover. This is a Fan Expo exclusive, and we're going to be selling it exclusively on Whatnot next weekend. like and subscribe, and let's talk about the #1 most trending book in the world, because it's a repeat offender. It's Dr. Doom #1.
Technically, it's just Doom #1, but who cares? This book's awesome. $25 average sales. Last week, we were reporting $20 average sales, so it is increasing. We do have a $160 pre-order for a 9.8 because there are no slabs of this book yet. Again, it just came out last week, and last week it hit #2. Here it is at #1. That does not happen for brand new books.
Yo, we warned the community that this was popping hard, and we also warned them about the second printing, which you can still get, and there's a 1 in 25 cover. And did we read this right? It's a version of cover A.
Marvel, thank you so much for not letting me down. Last week, I said I would be shocked if we didn't have a second printing of this cover. So the fact that I see that it is on final order cutoff for June 9th with a release date of July 10th, you guys, you can go to your local comic shop and order this. Now, Previews does not have a photo of what it is, but it does say that the second print is going to be a Sanford Green wraparound cover, and the 1 in 25 is the Sanford Green Virgin cover, which means that the A cover that's on this list right now, you're going to be able to get one without trade dress, and that's the one that is pre-selling for $89.99 on eBay right now.
And just speaking of Sanford Green in general, you got to open this book and read it because that's the interior artist, and this book is gorgeous to behold. It's a great book. It's illustrated by Sanford Green, but again, Jonathan Hickman, he wrote this thing. He loves writing Dr. Doom. He's attached to all these characters from his Fantastic Four run. He clearly has a great personal relationship with these characters, and he's on my list of writers that I will just get whatever they make without even questioning it or reading the synopsis even. If I see Jonathan Hickman's writing something, I'm pre-ordering it, enough said.
If I see James Tynion IV writing something, I order it, enough said. If I see Sean Phillips, Ed Brubaker writing something, I order it, enough said.
I'm definitely more on the British side. Anything Neil Gaiman, anything Alan Moore, those are the things that even if it's something older, I'm going to find a copy and make sure I read it.
Let us know in the comments. What's your list look like? Who's on your list? I want to know. I'm also a big Mark Russell fan, too. I got to throw him out there. I love that guy to death.
You said Philip Kennedy Johnson, yeah?
No, I did not.
Well, Philip Kennedy Johnson.
did.
Ha! I got you there, Ryan. I appreciate your time today, Comic Fam. See you in Dallas, and as always,
Geek responsibly.
Enough said.